For the first time ever, more than 7 million Americans are living with Alzheimer's. An annual report from the Alzheimer's Association is finding there might not be enough people to help those in need, especially here. First Alert 6's Maria Cade breaks it down.
The Alzheimer's Disease Facts and Figures report gives state-by-state stats for the entire country. Now, when we zoom into Nebraska, about 35,000 people over 65 lived with Alzheimer's in 2020. That's the most recent year available. 746 people died from that disease here in the state a year later. And those numbers aren't the only ones continuing to grow. There's a bigger demand for medical professionals to care for people living with the disease. Now, according to the report, there were 27 geriatricians in the state of Nebraska as of 2021. The Alzheimer's Association says we need to increase the number of doctors by 137% to meet the demand by 2050.
It would start with, in our medical schools, how are we supporting and encouraging people to want to go into this field to serve older adults?
Another growing need is family caregivers. The report finds there are about 41,000 people in the state who care for their loved one with Alzheimer's, sometimes without getting paid.
People that are caring for loved ones who are living with Alzheimer's or another dementia, we don't entitle ourselves caregivers. We don't feel like caregivers. We're spouses, daughters, and neighbors, we're friends. So I think that it's just something to keep in mind, that if you are struggling, if you were just seeing this broadcast and you are in that moment of like, wow, I think this is really hard and I need some help, there is a lot of help out there.
Now, here are the numbers for Iowa, which has a little bit of a larger population. 62,000 people were living with Alzheimer's there in 2020. While the state has 50 geriatricians, it needs a 110% increase to keep up with the pace. If you are needing services, the Alzheimer's Association has a 24/7 hotline, and we have that number for you right here on your screen. In the studio, Maria Cade, First Alert 6.
As testing becomes more common, more people are getting a diagnosis. The study also found nearly 79% of people want to know if they had the disease before showing any symptoms.